Um, is there only one non-physical source we call spirit or God, or is there really many parts that make this an idea of one whole? I'd like to know if there is a God and what I have been chasing my whole life on earth.
You are separating the idea into this or that instead of this and that. There is one and there is all, and the one and the all are the same thing in different forms. There is one that becomes the all, that is the all, that experiences itself as the all, and there are the many things that together make up the one, but are each individually their own version, their own perspective of the one. Everything is made of God. There is nothing else to make anything from, and therefore God is everything. When people on your planet talk about the idea and the notion of God being omnipresent, you have to understand that it's not possible to be everywhere unless you're actually literally everything. Therefore, it is everything. It is every atom, every subatomic particle, every object, every molecule, everything. The space even in between the things that you think of as empty space, that is even made of God. There is nowhere where God, all that is, isn't. It is everything, it is everyone, it is everywhere, it is every when. All the things make it up, and it makes up all the things.
After one becomes enlightened, is there any steps along one's path of spiritual development, or is this awakening the last step?
Enlightenment never ends. There are always different levels to awareness and enlightenment and experiences of all that is. Even if someone imagines that they reach the so-called quote-unquote highest level of becoming one with all that is, becoming one with Source, there are still many versions of what it means to experience becoming one with Source. So even becoming one with Source is not the ending of enlightenment or awareness. It is infinite, goes on forever, never ends, there's always something else.
Okay, and can you please give examples of the idea of the illusion of power versus the power of the illusion? I would like to understand this concept better.
Many people on your planet fall under the illusion of power in the sense of thinking that their physical minds need to control things. They think of themselves as powerful when they find themselves able to manipulate certain events into a certain order that allows them to feel satisfied with what it is they insist on seeking. But the idea is to understand that physical reality is a projection of consciousness. In that context, an illusion doesn't mean it's not valid. It doesn't mean the experience is not real. But understanding that you are already creating your reality based on your belief systems, based on what you define as true for you, is being able to utilize the power of the illusion to your benefit by going with the flow, by not being in resistance, by not attempting to force things into shape, but by understanding how to allow them to automatically fall into place using your own natural current, your own natural control built into you, rather than attempting to artificially control things through the physical mind, which it's not designed to do. It is only designed to give you an experience of physical reality, not to control it. The idea is that the control is already built in to the choices that you made to experience, the challenges that you chose to experience in this lifetime to grow as a soul. So allowing the idea of the agreements you made to simply unfold in perfect timing and to respond to them in a positive way, acting on your passion, following the formula, going with the flow, not resisting the natural current that you are, is the way to use the power of the illusion that's already built into it, instead of falling under the illusion that you are powerful by exercising your physical mind to control everything, which is exactly the opposite of being in control.
And if we all have unique experiences of life on Earth, do we all see the same objects and colors in the same non-biased way? Do you, Bashar, see our Earth and objects' colors the same way we do? Or do you see everything as energy or some other state?
You may have a strong sense of agreement so that what you perceive in your reality is very, very similar to what someone else may be perceiving in their reality and therefore have a common ground in a sense. But the idea is that you do not perceive exactly, precisely the same thing as everyone else. You all have a unique perspective. We see things also very differently than you do. We see multidimensionally far more than you do at this point in your evolution. And therefore, we see energy patterns. We can recognize those energy patterns as a type of language that allows us to understand how to perceive you and other beings in a very different way, on many different levels, simultaneously, even into the idea of perceiving parallel reality aspects of your being that you are connecting to, other civilizational vibrations that you are connecting to, other dimensional expressions of your greater being and your oversoul. So, yes, we see you as much bigger than you see yourselves in a variety of ways and extending into a variety of dimensional realities.
And when we use our imagination to interact with our hybrid children, what type of connection is actually happening? When this person is saying, when they play out the scenarios in their head, do they know that the hybrid children know they're doing this and come around? Can you explain this process a little more, because it's not tangible in their reality?
The hybrid children are extremely telepathic, will often pick up on when you are thinking of them, will allow their imagination to vibrationally match the imaginary scenarios that you are picturing in your head for those that are vibrationally compatible with the realities that benefit them. They will experience what you are imagining. For those that are not necessarily relevant to them, they will not necessarily experience those portions of your imagination. They may send back a representation of what it is that would be more likely represented by them. They can reverse the telepathy in that sense and allow you, especially in dream time, to have a more representative imagination scenario that is more in alignment with their vibration. So that can work in both directions.
And you stated in a session that new children on Earth are coming through upgraded in a way that they will be able to remember the connection much faster.
Yes.
Please tell me the age range of these particular upgraded children.
Generally speaking, most of them are in their 20s at this point, although new ones are being born all the time, and therefore there's a large age range below 20 years of age. It doesn't mean that anyone over 20 isn't also hybridized in the new way, part of a new species. But the overall average age is somewhere in the 20s of those that have been hybridized to the point where they are a relatively new species. That doesn't mean that they're all in alignment. It simply means they all have different capacities than you used to have as a species. It still depends on what they choose to do with it. It still depends upon the themes that they chose to explore as to what they are capable of recognizing within themselves, but they do have a slight advantage of being capable of remembering more of who they are as a spirit connected to Source. How they interpret it will be based on the themes they chose to explore.
And could you clarify how it is that the Sasani are one of the products of the hybridization agenda, but their physical future selves seem to also be participating in it, such as yourself? I'm curious if the version of the hybridization agenda that you perceive as the origin of your society is the same as the one that you're participating in. For example, you perceive your physical self as being physically involved in the creation of your own society. Are there versions of it that were created without the involvement of physical future selves? In a similar fashion, does Willa perceive that Daryl has channeled her in the past of her timeline? which will mean the information of the 5 levels of mastery was being used on Earth before they even invented it.
You are confused by the science fiction convention of future and past and time travel. The idea is to understand us not so much literally as future selves, but as parallel reality interpretations, parallel reality counterparts that all exist simultaneously with your reality. So yes, we are involved, but literally speaking, we are not coming from what you would consider to be your future in a linear sense. We coexist with you right now. So the idea is to drop the notion that we're in your future, because that's not how it works. The idea of the utilization of the term future selves is simply an application to represent that we are very much more advanced than you, which you usually chalk up to the idea of a future evolutionary being. But we exist right now. So the idea is we coexist with you and are participating with you. We are not coming from the literal future in the science fiction sense.
And also, the idea that the third entity is created when Daryl channels you or
Yes.
channels Bashar. And does that being have its own individuated soul?
Of a type, yes. We will not go into detail on this at this time because it can get a little complex. But of a type, yes.
Okay, and could you clarify the differences between the grays that you're referring to and the zeta reticuli?
As we have mentioned from time to time, there are many factions of grays. And the reason for this primarily is that when we talked about the idea of grays coming from a parallel version of Earth and other parallel realities, you must understand that there are a multitude of grays from different parallel realities that come through to different versions of Earth. So you have a mix of grays, in a sense, that come from different origin points, all interacting to some degree in what you consider to be your reality. So the grays that are connected to zeta reticuli are not exactly the same grays that are involved primarily in our creation, in the idea of the hybridization agenda. So it gets a little bit confusing because some can cross over from one agenda to another from time to time. But there are many factions of grays that come from many different parallel realities, all coexisting simultaneously in what you consider to be your timeline.
Okay, and is it accurate to say that extrasolar intelligent beings cannot develop the technology to reach Earth unless they have transcended aggressive world domination agendas and other fear-based and greed-based motivations? Does this imply that regardless of the circumstances on Earth, when they arrive, these beings will be altruistic ETs?
For the most part, yes. And again, remember that those that are engaged with you will set up a vibration that would make it less likely that anything that is vibrationally incompatible with your best interests would simply not find you. You would be invisible to them because of the vibrational state of those engaged with you that are operating on a much higher frequency.
Okay, and could you please explain the game hexes written about in the book Shards of the Shattered Mirror by
Yes,
Daryl?
there is a playing field made of different hexes. You might call them electronically activated. And the idea is that the players standing on hexes have to, in some way, psychically or telepathically or synchronistically determine the pattern of the changes in the colors of the hexes that change from phase to phase, from moment to moment, so that when you move from one hex to another, you instinctively land on a color that moves you forward and benefits you, as opposed to eliminating you from the game. So, for example, if you move from one hex to another while all the hexes are shifting and changing in color, when the hexes stop changing, stop shifting, and solidify into a particular color that was different than what they were before, or similar to what they were before. Whatever color it is that you have now stood on, whatever color happens to be in the hex you have decided to go to, determines your status in the game. So if you perhaps, for example, move to a hex that winds up solidifying into a gold hex, you may have won the game. If you stand on a hex that happens to solidify into a black hex, you may be eliminated from the game. Other colors may represent different status points in the game.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Are those who are attracted to your teachings a participant in the hybridization agenda?
They don't all have to be, but about 90% or above usually are.
Okay. And it seems as more of our consciousness expands, more is revealed. Does this mean that as a collective consciousness, if we match your frequency, we will be able to see you in physical form, or will we continue seeing only via our third eye?
You will ultimately see us in physical form if your vibrational rate comes closer to matching our frequency. In some sense, that is really what contact is all about, because as we have said, those operating on a higher frequency have the qualities of spirit. And when exposed to those frequencies, your physical body may react to them as if you are dying. And that is where the fear comes from. But the idea is that as you raise your frequency and create less differentiation between physical and non-physical reality, you become more vibrationally compatible with our natural state and can allow your senses to begin to perceive us more solidly, more corporeally, more physically.
And this person asks, saying that they 2 days ago meditated and asked to travel with a UFO, and then read in the media the day after that a UFO was observed in the same area of Norway.
Yes.
Is there any link?
Yes. That was the UFO that that person visited. Whether they remember fully or not is not the point. But they were given an opportunity to understand through the media story that what they had asked for had actually occurred. In time, they may remember. The memories may unfold.
About 28 years ago, this person astral projected to a triangular ship and communicated with a triangular headed being through the window. Was this Bashar's ship or something else?
Something else. We will not go into details at this time.
Okay. And what this person is saying, when they were younger, they had vivid dreams of their family house on fire and witnessing a UFO. These dreams are still very vivid, and in their research, they sense that they might be significant encounters. They're saying that they know they've been in contact with ETs, and they feel close to remembering, perhaps even Bashar himself, which is one reason they feel such a strong pull to join this transmission. Any insights you might provide that would be helpful in this situation?
This is indicative of communication with hybrid beings in the dream state, in the altered reality state. The house on fire represents the idea of what you're going through now in terms of breaking things down, burning things up, going from an old cycle to a new cycle, allowing the old systems to fall away, to burn away, and new systems to be put in place for your world and your reality to be refreshed and renewed. So the idea is that you are going through this transition. Sometimes it will be represented in a negative way, such as the burning of a house, but nevertheless, it is representative of a clearing, of a letting go of an old way, burning the old ideas out and allowing new ones to come in. So the idea is of a clearing and a preparation and a laying a foundation for a new structure, a new reality to take place in which contact can occur more easily. That is the communication that was given symbolically.
Nice. This person is saying in LA, her son and she spotted two silent triangular shapes with distinct circles in each corner, flying in the night sky from their hot tub. A friend's photo of a similar craft later led me to Bashar, raising questions about the origins of what they saw.
Yes, well, hybrid ships. Again, there's a lot of traffic around your planet. When you expand your consciousness, especially in a relaxed state, such as you achieved in your hot tub, a meditative state, your senses can then become more keenly aware of things that are going on around you that might have been invisible to you before until you allowed your vibration to raise by being in a more meditative state, which then gave you the ability to see some of the traffic that is moving around your planet all the time, especially the hybrid ships, since they are very close to the vibration of open contact, since it is the hybrid children that will be coming to live among you.
Okay, and here's another one. This person says, I had a fascinating flying vehicle encounter in October of 2023 in New York City. It happened around 7 a.m. in Manhattan near the 14th Street Union Square area. I was out grabbing a coffee before work when, upon crossing a street, I noticed out of the sheer corner of my eye an object flying rather unusually low in the open between the buildings. It appeared large, silent, at a distance. I noticed that it happened to be heading in the direction of my workplace right before it disappeared from view behind the buildings. A block away from my workplace, I decided to stop and see if I could get a good look at what it was. Well, lo and behold, I did, only this time it then hovered and stopped in the open space as if noticing me noticing it and stopping by to say hello. If what I perceived was in fact extraterrestrial, may you share with me who that pilot was that was piloting that ship and where they from and anything more you can tell me about that.
It is a Yael craft. They did notice that you were noticing them. Having the coffee is symbolic of waking up, and they were basically recognizing that you were waking up enough to be able to perceive their ship, which was out of phase with your reality, and yet you saw it anyway. And so they noticed that. Their message, in a sense, was good morning. You are waking up.
This person is saying, I'm a science fiction fantasy author. And I'm always wondered if the worlds and characters that run around in my head are as real as I am, or are they only real as this reality? I have a hard time defining the world as an illusion because to me, illusions are fake and fake is meaningless or a lie. Would it be safe to view the world as more malleable and less fixed than we humans currently view our experience of it?
Yes. And again, you can have a different definition of the word illusion. It is not meant in the term to be fake. The idea is perhaps more auspiciously used as a projection of consciousness rather than illusion, if illusion doesn't work for you as a term. So a projection of consciousness can still create a virtual reality for you, and the meaning in it is what you put into it. The experience of it is real, and it gives you lessons, it gives you knowledge, it allows you to expand, it allows you to learn, it allows you to grow. So in that sense, the so-called quote-unquote illusion is useful as a tool, if you think of it that way, but perhaps it would be easier for you to use it in the term projection rather than illusion. The idea is that the imaginings are real in their own right to some degree in a variety of ways. It doesn't mean they have to be as concrete as you find your reality to be, but many of them may be, or they may be very close representations of a quote-unquote real solid physical reality. They may be slightly different than you imagine them to be, but they could be close. Nevertheless, everything is real in some context, even if it's only real as a story, it's still real in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not literally played out physically in some parallel version of reality.